What happens when there's nothing going on between the ears? Hilarious crimes that are easily solved. Let's get right to it with number 9, the bus pass. Amateur thief Jordan McDonald robbed a businessman but made the critical mistake of forgetting his bus pass in the car. McDonald was part of a 4-man gang that lay in wait for a young businessman who was withdrawing cash from a bank in Birmingham, England. After robbing the man, the gang zoomed away in their vehicle, which they eventually abandoned. The police would have never had a clue about the identity of any of the men if Jordan hadn't made the mistake of forgetting his bus pass in the getaway car. After searching the car, the police found the pass and a shopping voucher, both of which had his name on them. After that, the rest of the investigation was light work. The police stormed McDonald's home, apprehended him, and went through his phone. That's when they found images showing bundles of 50-pound notes neatly laid on a stairway at his girlfriend's house. It's always a good idea to take pictures of piles of cash you stole and post them on social media so that all of the people who know you aren't rich are now going to think you are rich. Fanning out money or placing wads of money all over the place will serve as proof to all the non-believers, of course. McDonald tried to pass the funds off as money acquired from selling a car, but that excuse was never going to fly. He was eventually jailed for 8 years for his crimes, and he'll get to ride a different bus. Number 8, the worst appointment ever. Jason Donte Hayes was apprehended by police officers after arranging a meeting with a 70-year-old victim he'd abducted and robbed a day before. The meeting was originally planned so that his victim could hand over even more of her money to him. Unfortunately for Hayes, having a follow-up appointment for a shakedown isn't as good of an idea as it sounds. The night before, Hayes had broken into the home of the old lady. He woke her up with a pistol on her shoulder and then demanded money. She said she didn't have any, but had some money in her bank account. Hayes then drove her to an ATM and asked her to withdraw $2,000. However, the ATM couldn't dispense that amount, so it only released $460 to the thief. Instead of taking the money and just leaving, our man Hayes had a different idea. He drove the woman back to her home, woke up her husband, and threatened them for about an hour. He told them to meet him in a parking lot the next day with the balance of the $2,000 he wanted to steal, and that he'd be wearing the same clothes so they could identify the correct bad guy. He told them that if they didn't, he would come back to take their lives. He also warned them sternly not to involve the police. And off he went, safe in the expectation that his extended robbery was in no danger of going awry. You know, he was like really stern with them. So of course they're going to listen, right? Well, he wasn't nearly stern enough. The couple defiantly called the police, unwilling to take orders from some kid who was shaking them down. At first, the police didn't believe that Hayes would be dumb enough to come to the appointment wearing clothes that would identify him, but was plenty dumb enough. When Hayes arrived for the meeting, the police simply arrested him. In the end, the chief of police said that Hayes was probably the dumbest criminal he would see that year. Number 7, forget something? Robert Hobby and Marcus Reeves were arrested after robbing a store and forgetting a wallet, government ID, and a shoe. According to the police, the two men had a grand time robbing convenience stores of cigarettes and lottery tickets. The only problem with their actions is that they didn't exactly plan it out. First, the stores they robbed all had CCTVs, and all of them captured Hobby and Reeves taking smoke breaks while carrying out their robberies. But just seeing some schmo smoking on CCTV isn't enough to ID said schmo. So the police still needed more info to track the thieves down. So Reeves, who's in no way related to Keanu, decided to make the job easier for the police by leaving his wallet behind while making his lazy getaway where he responsibly kept his ID. But wait, there's more. He also found a way to forget his shoe, which is seriously impressive incompetence if you think about it. How badly do you have to suck at robbery to not just forget an ID card, but one of your shoes? It's not like it was a scarf or something. The thing literally goes on your feet. Anyway, the police simply ran the forgotten ID, then showed up at Reeves' house to arrest him. He knew the jig was up when they found him and took him into custody, where he promptly confessed. Number 6, don't mess with the Royal Marines. A man tried to show off his exceptional lack of brains by trying to rob a Tesco while 3 Royal Marines stood mere yards away promoting a charity event where they were going to row across the Atlantic on the same route the Titanic took. The 18-year-old criminal grabbed up items such as perfumes and a hairdryer and was ripping off security stickers from them. Remember, he was doing this in full view of the Marines in the area. But he didn't just rip off stickers off items he wanted to steal. He also went on to assault the security man who asked him about what he was doing. Well, the Marines, being Marines, didn't really like the idea of someone shoplifting in front of them. So, the infuriated soldiers pursued the thief to the parking lot where he was ragdolled, then dragged back into the store by the scruff of his neck. The police had already been called and were already waiting for him. Number 5. Welcome to my crib. Huaka Yang recorded himself confessing to a crime with the camera he stole. Yang had stolen the camera from a car in the driveway of Republican State Senate candidate Bill Feehan. The camera itself didn't belong to Bill Feehan. Instead, it was the property of one of Feehan's aides, a man named Chris Rochester. The police found the camera and returned it to Chris as part of an investigation into recent thefts in the area. At the time, he didn't check the contents of the camera because he didn't seriously think the thief would have a brain made up of 50% air and 50% stupid air. Fortunately, Chris was wrong, and that was precisely the sort of brain this thief had. When he went through the camera, he found a couple of videos that he hadn't recorded and decided to go through them. That was when he saw a video of Yang demonstrating his air to stupid air ratio. He talked about how he stole the camera, introduced himself with his full name, and also gave a tour of his home. It's difficult to imagine a dumber criminal. Chris took the video and uploaded it to YouTube for the world to see. He wanted to know if this was truly the dumbest criminal ever, and our answer is probably. He makes the top 10 list at least. In any case, the police got a hold of the video and then showed the clip to officials at the local high school. They recognized the student in the video, and the student identified Yang, who was promptly arrested. Number 4. Reputational Excellence. Jamie Sharp was jailed again after he was caught breaking into the home of a mother of 4. The victim caught him on camera and distributed his photos online. That was when he was identified as a criminal who had been on Britain's Dumbest Criminals, a show about criminals with the most air for brains. The show featured a popular episode that explored how Sharp stole a vehicle, then made a video while driving the vehicle, and then crashed that vehicle into a wall and trapped himself inside. So when the victim of Sharp's recent carjacking distributed the CCTV snapshots of his break-in, people quickly recognized him as the moron from the TV show. His victim, who shared his photos online, had a CCTV placed right outside her house. Sharp had no idea that this camera existed, so when he decided to break into her home, he didn't account for it. Sharp began his operation at night when his victim was in her bed sleeping. Her dog barked while the crime was ongoing, but she just thought it was her dog doing that dog thing where they bark at trees or something. Then she came out and found her door ajar and her car stolen. The burglar also took her iPad, handbag, and the medications for her disabled child that were left in the car. Thankfully, her neighbor had the CCTV camera that pointed directly in front of her house, so she retrieved snapshots from it. The shots did justice to the scene as they captured everything that our not-so-sharp criminal, Jamie Sharp, had done. She distributed those snapshots online, and if anyone recognized the thief. But Sharp was something like a local hero of dumbness, so he was instantly identified. Hundreds of people, including his mother, reached out to the police to identify him. Even his mother understood that he needed to get off the streets and go to jail. In the end, poor, dumb Jamie Sharp was caught and charged in court. His victim testified and in her impact statement asked the judge to lock him up for a long time as he was never going to change. Unsurprisingly, the court also found out that this was hardly his first or second crime. Back in 2013, he had stolen an Audi from a burgled home and had been arrested after a long car chase that involved 4 police cars and a helicopter. The judge considered all these facts and then sentenced him to 4 years in jail. One can only hope that Sharp comes out of the prison a changed man, because if he doesn't, he'll probably get recognized as a famously dumb criminal again. Number 3. Outsmarted by a fence. This thief got stuck on the same fence twice in one night during 2 different burgle expeditions. Yes, you heard that right. The first time the thief got stuck was around 3 a.m. when he climbed over the store's fence to steal 24 cans of energy drink. The fence, loyal to the store, attempted to detain the thief by holding him by his britches. He was lucky that a passing car stopped by the fence and those inside freed him, not knowing they were helping the bad guy. But he wasn't as lucky the second time. Around 2 hours later, the same thief returned to the same store to steal again. This time, he got in and took a crate of beer, thinking he'd outsmart the fence. But the fence had other plans, and he got stuck again. But the thief wasn't gonna go down without a fight. He'd learned a thing or two since the first time the fence got him, so he tried putting off his pants to make his escape. It did not work. The thief was placed under citizen's arrest by the fence till around 6:30 a.m. when a passerby saw him and called the police. When the police came, he was arrested, and all the stolen items were retrieved from his home. The owner of the store was alerted as well and asked to watch the CCTV recording of the entire incident. It was so hilarious that the owner said he almost rolled on the floor laughing. Number 2. Identify yourself. 3 women, Zeynep Spee Maddox, Kirsten Laurie, and Kimberly St. John Stevenson, have been sentenced after running a Facebook scam that swindled hundreds of mothers looking for a bargain. The scam started like a regular business. Zeynep Spee Maddox created a Facebook group that was supposed to be a space where new mothers could get heavily discounted items like toys, car seats, and even trips to Disney World. News of the site soon spread through word of mouth, and almost 200 mothers joined it. People who wanted to purchase items on the site got their first product with no hassle. The discounts were real and the products arrived on time. However, subsequent orders didn't usually go according to plan. The customers would purchase the item, but Zeynep, the creator of the site, wouldn't send the product nor provide a refund. There was also some creative accounting with the money that was coming in through the sales that never happened. They sent the money back and forth through several bank accounts in an attempt to launder it. It probably would have been successful, but all of their names and contact information was listed on the site, so there was no way to disguise or hide their operation. Soon, a local reporter heard of the site and went undercover to meet one of the women, Zeynep Spee Maddox, offline. Immediately, after realizing that it was a sting operation, Zeynep fled the scene and also the country. Coincidentally, the police were already investigating. According to the police, Zeynep took trips to China, Cancun, and Dubai to avoid prosecution. When she got back to the US, she made sure she stayed far away from Ohio. During that time, one of her co-conspirators, Kimberly St. John Stevenson, was maintaining an account that Zeynep had access to, which enabled her to withdraw over $60,000 while on the run. Zeynep was eventually arrested in Las Vegas on a fugitive warrant and extradited to Ohio to face the law. Kimberly St. Stevenson and Zeynep's sister Kirsten were also arrested in connection to the Facebook group fraud. The group was hit with multiple felony charges, including conspiracy, aggravated theft, money laundering, telecommunications fraud, engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, and possessing criminal tools. Zeynep was sentenced to 6 years in prison for her efforts, and Kimberly was released after spending over a year in custody. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay right here for our past release about people who love to show off the crimes they did. Number 1. Through the roof. Amateur thieves Brittany Burke and Richard Pariseau got into something of a mix after they used a stolen credit card at a small store. And by mix, we mean Richard got tased, bro, and Brittany tried to escape through the vents but fell back into the store. She also lost one of her shoes in all the excitement. Here's how this hilarious episode started for this less intelligent Bonnie and Clyde. They tried to use a stolen credit card to purchase goods at a store. Cashier called the police, and an officer quickly arrived at the scene. The officer attempted to arrest the couple, but the kerfuffle ensued, and Brittany ran back into the store. Meanwhile, the officer at the door continued to grapple with Richard to try and force him to surrender. He was quickly tased by the police and ultimately subdued. During that electrifying event, Brittany was running around the store looking for ways to escape. She went to the back room of the store and saw an air vent. Clearly, being a fan of Die Hard, the greatest Christmas movie ever, she thought she could escape, but it ended up more like The Breakfast Club. She planned to use it to get out of the store since the entrance was blocked by the cop, but it didn't quite work that way. Instead, she fell out of the roof of the store right into the shelves and onto the floor. At that point, Brittany realized that she wasn't getting away and surrendered. These guys just can't help but just rat themselves out. Let's get right into just how dumb criminals can get. Number 4, let's rap about crime. 213 Jug God is a Texan rapper whose real name is Ladasian Riley. As a rapper, Riley makes hardcore songs about jugging. You would think that obviously jugging would mean that Riley is into doing things with jugs, playing the jug, putting stuff in jugs, hanging out with juggalos, collecting roughly 213 jugs, maybe even the occasional juggling show. Stuff like that can easily bring an up-and-comer loads of street cred in the hip-hop community. Actually, the jug in his name stands for jugging, and jugging is a street slang that means following unsuspecting victims and robbing them. 213, Jug God, was so into jugging that he actually wrote a jugging song called Make It Home, with lyrics bragging about stealing from ATMs. Really, being a god of jugging, what else was our man Riley going to do in his downtime? Not jug? Of course not. The lyrics of Make It Home describe robbing ATMs in different states, having thousands of dollars in the car, and trying to make it home before the police catch up. A deep and meaningful song that anyone could relate to. Most who heard the song might believe that 213 Jug God was just making up a story for his song, but it was actually his plan. The only difference was 213 Jug God didn't make it home. He was 213 Jug Got. 213 Jug God wasn't alone in his robbing escapades. He had 3 other juggers with him. His Jug Gang of 4, which included a Juggette, jugged an ATM technician at the Bank of America. The crew approached the technician from behind as he serviced the machine, like a true jugger would, and forced him to hand over all the money in the machine, or there would be violence. Once they got the cash, the gang took the money and fled. 213 Jug God probably thought all about making it home, just like his song. However, things didn't quite pan out like that for our ragtag crew of jugging misfits. One of their getaway vehicles had been rented through Hertz, which allowed police to easily track their vehicle. In no time at all, police discovered the vehicle at a motel in Dixon, Tennessee. When police arrived, they decided to stake it out to see what kind of jugging activity they might find. And they found plenty. Police saw the gang load a Jeep up with cash, which was presumably jugged from the ATM, and then the gang checking out. After checking out, the suspects took off in different vehicles, but the police weren't about to let these juggers make it home. So they pursued the vehicles and quickly apprehended the jug buddies. Once all the jug friends were arrested, police discovered that this wasn't exactly 213 Jug God's first jugging rodeo. He was actually just out of prison on bond for an evading arrest charge. Police also discovered 213 Jug God's music and learned that he'd been bragging about jugging ATMs in his lyrics, so good luck with that not guilty plea. To add insult to injury, police made sure to mock 213 Jug God's ability to actually make it home in a Facebook post. Hopefully, 213 Jug God's church that worships him, he is a god after all, weren't too offended. Number 3, NBA player insurance scam. Former NBA player Terrence Williams was a first-round NBA pick out of Louisville who spent 6 seasons in the NBA with the Brooklyn Nets, Houston Rockets, Sacramento Kings, and Boston Celtics. Despite making a decent amount of money in the NBA, Williams wanted more. What he got was an indictment for leading a group of around 18 people to defraud the NBA through phony medical and dental insurance claims. Williams had recruited doctors in California and Washington, sent them false insurance claims, and got paid thousands of dollars in what turned out to be as embarrassing as his jump shot. Williams recruited other NBA players by offering to provide them with false invoices that supported their own fraudulent claims. Williams got these invoices from the doctors he'd recruited and then had the players submit the fake claims to the NBA insurance plan. He also recruited non-medical professionals to copy the invoices made by medical offices. The FBI investigator said that these invoices were usually poorly done. They often had typos, had no letterhead, and often contained misspelled names. Despite the unsophisticated nature of the scheme, Williams earned about $300,000. Aside from creating fake invoices, Williams was a true Renaissance man that also dabbled in identity theft. He used an email account designed to impersonate an employee of the NBA health insurance plan to frighten a doctor who wanted to back out of the scheme. Williams threatened the doctor by saying to either pay a fine or he would tell the authorities about the false invoices and claims, allowing Williams to net over $346,000. Williams' scam couldn't carry on forever though, since he'd made so many mistakes that his arrest was inevitable. The invoices submitted were obviously fake, and some of the participants in the crime had made obvious slip-ups, like billing the NBA from states the teams didn't visit. Even after the scheme went bust and Williams was caught, he still went about threatening witnesses. Williams texted threats to a witness and told them that they were talking too much and that horrible things could befall them if they continued speaking. In the end, Williams pled guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to commit healthcare and wire fraud. The crimes he was charged with carry a maximum term of about 20 years in prison. Williams was also charged with 1 count of aggravated identity theft, which carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 2 years in prison. As part of his guilty plea, he agreed to pay a restitution of $2.5 million to the plan and to forfeit roughly $650,000 to the U.S. government. Number 2. Buy high, sell low. Michael Melchizedek's operation started way back in 2013 when he just founded his company called ZetaKicks. The company found quick success and was soon a popular online plug for sneakerheads, people who collect and trade rare or exclusive sneakers. These sneakers are usually quite expensive and often run into thousands and thousands of dollars. It's a lucrative gig if you know what you're doing, but Michael Melchizedek thought it'd be more lucrative if he instead was running a nationwide Ponzi-like scheme, defrauding thousands of customers out of about $70 million pretending to sell shoes. Not long after its inception, ZetaKicks became a ridiculously successful company, making Michael Melchizedek a very rich man. But in early 2020, things started to get a bit complicated. During that time, ZetaKicks repeatedly promised its customers access to exclusive shoes that were yet to be on the market, and oftentimes promised them at lower than retail prices. These sneakers were usually highly sought after and sold out within minutes. Even other retailers wanted to buy from ZetaKicks because they could resell the shoes at a profit. However, ZetaKicks had a catch. Customers could only get these shoes if they paid for pre-orders. Just like that, ZetaKicks started taking payments for pre-orders. The only small problem for Melchizedek, couldn't fulfill the pre-orders, and he knew it when he started taking them. Melchizedek accepted 600,000 pre-orders for Air Jordan 11 Cool Grays and had put the sneakers on sale for about $115 to $200 a pair when Nike was expected to sell them for about $225. The 600,000 orders amounted to about $70 million. These were incredible sales, but the problem was Melchizedek had only 6,000 pairs in his storehouse, leaving a $593,000 deficit. The responsible thing at this point would be to refund his customers, but Michael had never been accused of being responsible and did no such thing. Instead, he offered his customers a combination of gift cards and refunds, allowing him to keep a huge chunk of the pre-order payments. Still, many orders were left without refunds, and even orders that were fulfilled only got to their destinations a year or so later. Aside from owing shoes to customers that didn't get refunded, the gift cards Melchizedek offered them were simply not equivalent to payments they made. So, Michael Melchizedek did what any person would do after they fleeced millions of dollars. He decided to move on with his life. Melchizedek used the money he got from his illegal scheme to purchase luxury items and live a wealthy lifestyle. He posted videos of himself riding around on a $29,000 Louis Vuitton bicycle inside his Oregon mansion and showed off an extremely expensive collection of Ferraris and Gerard Perrault watches. He also bought a Bentley, Porsche, Ferrari, Mercedes, Lamborghini, and a McLaren. Aside from all the cars, Melchizedek also purchased expensive furs, bags, and other luxury items for his fiancée, Bethany Mockerman. According to the police, he also used part of the money to finance a house payment with $600,000 worth of remodeling work done. It seemed like there was no way Melchizedek's life could be undone, but the entire scheme was quickly unraveling, and Michael realized that he couldn't keep the scam going for much longer. Melchizedek preempted the bankruptcy of the business by going to the courts and asking for the company to be dissolved and for its assets to be passed on to a court-appointed receiver. This receiver was supposed to use the company's assets to settle all outstanding debts that the company might have incurred. After doing that, Michael deleted his social media accounts and deleted the company's website as well. Following the dissolution of the business, the FBI began investigating the company, and they found some incredible things. They discovered that Michael was in fact selling sneaker pre-orders without actually having those sneakers, and he failed to refund those payments as well. But that was just the tip of the shoe. The FBI also discovered that the company provided false and misleading information to banks when applying for loans, and that his fiancée, Bethany Mockerman, was complicit in the scam. The FBI deemed the entire operation a criminal enterprise and swiftly moved in. Law enforcement agents were able to seize millions of dollars in cash and recovered another $6.4 million from the sale of the watches and cars. They also found out that Michael had 4,700 Yeezys, 8,500 Adidas shoes, and 48,000 Nike shoes in a warehouse in his house. The couple was also arrested to boot, pun intended. According to their attorney, both Michael and Bethany were cooperating with law enforcement. In the end, the FBI decided to charge both Bethany and Michael with conspiracy to commit bank fraud and money laundering. The only shoes we think Michael should wear is, of course, con. Number 1. We love attention. Johnny Richardson and Micaiah Taylor conspired with a government worker to steal thousands of dollars meant to support individuals who lost their jobs due to the coronavirus pandemic. The government worker involved was Brandy Hawkins, and without her, the scam would have never gone through. Actually, Hawkins was the reason the couple was even caught in the first place. When police discovered the couple through Hawkins' social media, the couple had been showing off their new pandemic-funded lavish lifestyle on social media. In one post, Johnny Richardson bought a $130,000 Benz for Taylor's birthday, proclaiming he'd already bought her a big house and that for some reason she deserved a gratuitously expensive car purchased with stolen funds. Maybe he was mad at her? Like, happy birthday, here's a vehicle that will be used as evidence for your future incarceration. I posted it on social media to make it easier to find. Happy B-Day, love you, XOXO. The couple continued to flaunt their extravagant lifestyles, even though neither of them had enough money to be living so lavishly. In fact, one of Taylor's confusing pictures, she was in a bikini, soaking in a bathtub filled with milk water, surrounded by dead rose petals. She must think that the wealthy take baths in dirty water with detritus floating around in it while wearing bathing suits. They also posted pictures of themselves wearing extremely expensive jewelry, driving other luxury vehicles, and flaunting large amounts of government cash. The police discovered Taylor and Richardson's social media brags when Hawkins was investigated for using her insider access to grant hundreds of thousands in fraudulent and unemployment claims. When the police discovered Hawkins' scam, they searched her home and discovered over $238,000 in cash, as well as receipts for Louis Vuitton merchandise and other high-end luxury items. Once police got access to Hawkins' phone records, they found incriminating conversations between her and other thieves. One of the phone numbers that Hawkins regularly texted was linked to one MDMH beauty bar. Officials looked at the page and discovered that it belonged to Taylor. Once the police found Taylor's Instagram page and saw how lavishly she and her boyfriend lived, they knew that something was up and decided to investigate. Upon further investigation, they discovered that Taylor, Richardson, and Hawkins regularly spoke about getting these fraudulent unemployment benefits and that they were all in cahoots. There was a lot of cahooting between the three. After going through Taylor and Richardson's Instagram accounts, the police decided that there was enough cause to arrest the couple. However, Richardson got word before he could be arrested and skedaddled out of town. Taylor wasn't so lucky. She was arrested and charged with wire fraud. If convicted, she could spend up to 20 years in prison for the crime. When Taylor eventually appeared in the court, she was wearing one of the luxury items she took pictures with on Instagram. Instead, she was in handcuffs and a blue zip-up jacket. Her lawyer requested bail, but the prosecutor was pretty adamant she remain in custody. He argued that the police still didn't know where the majority of their loot was and didn't know where boyfriend of the year Richardson ran off to. This, the government argued, made Taylor a flight risk. The judge ignored prosecution's recommendation and released her on a $10,000 unsecured bond. Ultimately, Richardson was caught and made to face justice as well. The couple both pled guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Richardson was eventually sentenced to 97 months in prison, and Taylor was sentenced to 30 months in prison. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you'd rather do if police were chasing a criminal. Tackle him or her, or let the police do the job by themselves.